Friends, hello everyone. Thank you for visiting Bitcoin Adept. Today we will talk about the price of Bitcoin and what movement it might make in the near future. Well, we will also talk about altcoins. We can't do without them. This video won't be very positive, but it is what it is. So, let's switch to the daily Bitcoin chart and take a look at what's happening now. Guys, this is very important. You will understand everything now. So in the coming days, a few days, about 12 days, we have this kind of sideways movement, neither higher nor lower, plus or minus a couple of thousand for Bitcoin. And look, we entered this sideways movement with these kinds of moves. I will quickly outline everything for you now to show what might be ahead of us. In short, we are reaching the most local point of $108,000. After which the movement goes down with small corrections, sometimes higher, sometimes lower. We reach the lower point and then return again to the upper point, even higher at $109,000, after which we go down not as deep as this point, guys, pay attention. Yes, this is very important. After which we rise and are now in a kind of sideways movement, from which it is very important for us to know where we will go next. Guys, look, in my previous videos I have already shown that this main sideways movement is an exact copy of the same sideways movement where we were exactly a year ago. And if you examine it in more detail, all these detailed movements are nothing but psychological movements, where unprepared investors sell many assets and traders who trade futures close their positions at a stop or they are forcibly closed, meaning liquidation occurs. And look, in this sideways movement, which is happening now, we came after reaccumulation. With this kind of acceleration movement, I am saying all this to you because after the accumulation of Bitcoin, there was the same reaccumulation as there was. Exactly 1 year later, we had the same acceleration, very similar to this acceleration. And after that, you see this price formation in Bitcoin also similar to the formation that was a year before. That is, the movement was upward at the beginning, then a local upward movement. The maximum point, a decline with some corrections, down to this lower point, after which the movement went even higher, meaning there was an upward trend at some point. Also, generally speaking, just like here, from $108,000 up to $109,000. And after which, let's stretch this out in more detail. We initially fell, yes, from this point and after it, we had a kind of sideways movement for about 5 to 6 days. And the situation looked approximately like this. Yes, if we draw support from below, then this approximately passed through the next point, and it was all part of an upward trend. And look, now we have a similar story repeating. First we fell lower, now this time not as low. That is, we can say that the trend is like this, going still upward. We are in an upward sideways trend, but we are specifically in this sideways part after the formation of this lower point. And look, what happened at the moment when we had a sideways movement after this lower point? Everyone thought we would fly upwards, as the trend seemed to like this growing one of ours, but instead of flying upwards, we went lower, again, lingering for approximately the same time as we were previously in the sideways trend. Here it took us 5 days. And then we went even lower. And this also took us 4 or 5 days. That is, we updated the minimum values that we had here before. And after that, recovery began. At first, we lingered at these previous values. Then the price grew even higher. We lingered at the next values where we had been before. Everything here is scribbled over. Nothing is clear anymore, but I hope you catch the essence. And this, guys, was a year ago. Before this price, you could say fluctuations. And even if we look at the movement from a year ago, guys, it's essentially the same, just on a smaller scale. Now I'll show you why it's on a smaller scale, but the meaning, guys, is the same. the acceleration, I was after the lower movements first, an acceleration upwards, then an upward movement. You could say there was a similar upward trend for several days, after which we reached a local maximum point. At that moment, after that we fell down, you can see this. Then we came even higher, meaning the trend was also like upward, after which there was a downward movement. And at this point, the same trend remained upward for us, but there was a small sideways movement for about 4 to 5 days again. And we went quite low, updating these minimum values. And if you look, guys, at how low we went at that moment to understand how low we might go now, I used, as I showed you in previous videos, a tool like the Fibonacci extension. And there is a pattern that with our correction, we come more or less to the level according to Fibonacci. And with the initial movement, we did not reach this level, but with the next movement, we came to this level and even lower. This is regarding the initial movements. Next, yes, look, we stretch it further, fiber expansion. I want to show you that after locally maximum movements, we descended to precisely according to Fibonacci. You see, I stretch it to the maximum values, and the reference point where we fell from these maximum values is, according to FIBA, up to these lower values. And just like that, guys, this was our accumulation in Bitcoin. This entire prolonged accumulation, one of the stages in such a sideways movement, after which we moved to the next intermediate sideways movement, which was here up to this point. And again, we are stretching the expansion of FIBA from the bottom of this correction or accumulation, to our sideways movement to the very top part. Let's zoom parts in. Here we'll remove some of this also from the bottom, so it's visible that we reached the maximum values and reached the level 0.3H2 according to Fibonacci, which we reached before always during corrections. And guys, let's continue. Look, we saw that the price reached these values. If we stretch it even higher, again, we see that after reaching the local maximum point, and all this are called reaccumulation in Bitcoin, it also came as a reference to these level values according to FIBA. And now, to find out where we can go after this of the sideways movement. Many say that now we will fly to the moon. Many bloggers say that at any moment they show charts that we will fly upwards. But guys, upward movements don't happen without downward movements, without corrections. And look, if we also stretch the Fibonacci from the reaccumulation to the maximum upper values, there, $193 was our maximum value this time. Then we see that to the level 0.382. Bitcoin has not yet come. It only came to the price, for me, 89,500 right here. And the level, according to FIBA, this is the level $786 per Bitcoin. And in the first case, right here, when we were at the bottom, the price squeezed below this level. 0.2 and almost reached the level 0.618. Therefore, guys, my targets are such that after this sideways movement, we might go even lower, namely to this level 0.382. In this way, meaning a move downwards, a certain sideways movement, which will again last several days. Moreover, guys, look, this can simply be done in another way by copying the bar pattern from the previous movement. In these current days, as they say, we take the bar pattern tool, where here it is, the bar pattern tool. From this sideways movement, where we are potentially located now, we copy this entire part to our 4 current days. And it results in such a situation that, firstly, we can bring our correction to the price of $87,000. But quite likely, we might go lower at some point. Since this movement, which went approximately up to $160,000, can be higher as each time the movement becomes higher and higher. This is a logarithmic chart, but now if I connect a regular chart for you, we turn off the logarithmic one. And look, let's connect the 3-day equity data chart for a better view so that it's more understandable, because there are many small details here. Look, if we remove the unnecessary or sketches, this chart is not logarithmic. The regular Bitcoin chart looks like this. When we were at the bottom, the movements, guys, were quite microscopic. But that's if we compare them to today's movements. Back then, the range was plus or minus $1,000 for Bitcoin. Then the movement increased. And each subsequent sideways movement, as you can see, became larger and larger. So now we are stuck in this kind of sideways movement. A large one, you could say, before it was smaller. And before, that 2 years ago, it was even smaller. Therefore, by rearranging the bar pattern from this moment to some maximum values, I think that's incorrect, guys. I think presumably there will be a situation where we might just move into the area of these upper unloading values for Bitcoin. That is, you can stretch the bar pattern in this way. But it's also possible that we might fall at some point in the near future during a correction if that happens. That is, I am not changing my targets for Bitcoin. I am still, as before, focusing on the idea that before the further rise which should happen, in my opinion, these are just my thoughts, maybe it's the fantasies of a hamster, we should go a bit lower. And this moment where we might go, I am trying to calculate. So, this will be very important in relation to altcoins. That is, if Bitcoin at some point goes lower, but now we will talk about altcoins. Then altcoins, well, at some point might drop significantly in price before Bitcoin's final upward movement. And now let's switch to the daily chart, the main chart, and activate my signal indicators to see what signals they might be giving at the moment. So the first signal indicator is my Ishimoku Cloud Adept. Let's take a look at this daily chart. Consolidation, but it's understandable because the movement might go upwards, but we can also drop lower. That is consolidation on a global scale, something like that, until we drop down. And again, reaching this level. As for the daily chart, let's switch to the 4-hour chart. Here probably the signals downward will start to prevail, but let's not rush. Let's take a look now. Yes, all signals are downward. That is, even those who are not particularly familiar with Ishimoku strategies, it's easier to look at their clouds. On the right, in this table of signals, we currently have strong signals downward. This concerns the Ishimoku Cloud Adapt. Let's move on to the next signal indicator, Golden Graal. Currently, we have no signal. We had a sell signal, but that's all in the past now. Let's try a different time frame and take a look. A 12-hour one for variety. It's the same here. There was a sell signal, but no new signals have appeared yet. Well, let's then move on to my last signal indicator, Bitcoin Adept, buy and sell. On the 12-hour chart, currently it shows a sell signal. Before that, it was a buy signal, but the buy turned into sales, as it always has before. And at the moment, on this candle, we have no signal. Well, let's move to a more local one, the 4-hour chart then. Let's look at the chart, Shitab, to see what signals are given on it. There was also a sell signal on it, but that was a long time ago historically. And currently there are no signals yet. So accordingly, guys, if a buy signal appears, it means that this 4-hour trend in principle might reverse. And at some point it could give another upward movement. And before we move on to altcoins, I strongly recommend installing all my signal indicators. There are about 8 of them on your phone or computer. This is completely free on the free version of the TradingView program to de-navigate the further movement of Bitcoin. In the video description, it explains how to do all this. And also, guys, join our trading chats. Now let's take a look at what's happening with altcoins. For this, we will connect the Ethereum chart, COC to Bitcoin. Here, we can see when Ethereum is dominant, meaning it starts to grow faster than Bitcoin. And when the opposite happens, Bitcoin is growing faster than Ethereum. And you know that Ethereum is the father of all altcoins, but the father is currently experiencing a decline. That is, there was already such a decline in the previous cycle, after which we turned around and went up. This was the alt season for both Ethereum and altcoins. But after that, Bitcoin grows stronger than it does Ethereum and altcoins. And the situation looks like this. That is, the trend for the father is like this. Downward, and it's very sad, yeah, of course, to always observe, yes, we are currently in this part, and it is quite likely that just like the movement, it was down here, we will also come at some point and then bounce here and go to the upper zone. That is, Ethereum will start to grow faster than Bitcoin, and accordingly, altcoins will also catch this growth. And this may happen this year by the end of the year. I assume that altcoins will show themselves, but if at some point Bitcoin goes even lower than today's values, as I showed, to around $87, maybe $85,000, then guys, altcoins including Ethereum will drop even further. Accordingly, on this chart, it will be visible that Ethereum Tower is declining even more. Against Bitcoin, more than Bitcoin itself has declined. I hope you understand this. And by that time, if this happens and Bitcoin declines, then other altcoins might, guys, become significantly cheaper. Therefore, keep some stable coins in reserve if you have them, if you have the opportunity to buy more of those altcoins you believe in, that you have invested in. As such, opportunities don't come often. And now, guys, let's switch to the chart of Ethereum in relation to the stablecoin. And look, here with Ethereum, as I have already shown, there is a certain support zone and above. There is some resistance where Ethereum is being squeezed, and it is being squeezed or more towards the upper edge than the lower one. You see that, right? That is, its growth is going higher and higher from the bear cycle. And at some point, I don't think we will stay long in this triangle. It is quite likely that at some point we will break upwards, as it happened in previous cycles. We had the same support, referencing the period from 2018 to 2020, where we moved around and then suddenly shot upwards. That's all for now. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you want to hear my thoughts on the price of Bitcoin and altcoins. Also, install all my signal indicators and join our trading chats. Thank you to everyone who watched this video to the end. Goodbye, everyone.